teenagers and young people, younger than myself, into space. And we're going to have to find a way to do it, or the space community could really start to shrink. And, you know, humans really should be exploring this wonderful solar system we live in. And I'm here as just figure out what we can do, either from an outreach standpoint or what we need in the classroom or anything else, so we can get our teenagers more involved. Any ideas, suggestions?
Zach, how did you hear about SpaceUp DC?
Through Spacevidcast, we've been in Carrie Ann, partially.
No, that was the right answer.
Well, no, partially through Ben and Carrie Ann, but also I had heard about SpaceUp before when when Ben and Carrie Ann were actually going to SpaceUp, and I was like, when's the next one in DC? And is there going to be one close by to where I'm at? And Mike over here, he's just awesome, and he created SpaceUp DC.
Awesomeness.
Awesomeness. Yes.
Where do you get your information?
Well, when I was young, I had always watched fiction movies and just pulled whatever I could sciencey or spacey from it. So sci-fi flicks, say Deep Impact, or I used to watch Apollo 13 all the time. That was another one. Right after that, I'd always want to go and research about what happened or how it worked, or are there any other asteroids that could, on a long, time period, possibly impact the Earth. I know that's kind of scary and pessimistic and stuff, but
is there something that, say, you would like NASA or an aerospace company or somebody like that to come and do at your school that they're not doing right now?
well, the thing is, there is no aerospace companies or NASA coming out. Period. That's the thing. Living in the relatively middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania, it seems really hard for people from NASA or SpaceX or Bigelow or X-Corp or the many other various aerospace companies to come out. I would eventually love to see anybody related in space in any fashion. CEOs or whoever.
So it's probably not. Put my business person hat on. It's probably not feasible for a corporation to visit all of the high schools, especially the ones that don't have a large attendance. Just from a time standpoint. So what if we did something that was, and when I say we, I don't work in the space industry, but as a computer guy, I think about, you have a connection to the community that's in this room because of Ben's creative use of the internet to broadcast and to not only broadcast, but as a Spacevidcast viewer, you are a participant in the conversation.
Yeah.
So what if there was some kind of creative use like that where you could create some sort of participatory exploration? And I'm not talking about kind of like the poser version where it's, we're going to create some game and you're going to play it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about some way for you, the best and brightest of you, or the ones of you that make that put the most effort in to have a chance to really contribute.
Well, I know that NASA has brought in students from random schools before, to visit their laboratories or their facilities. People like myself who are really interested in space and may not, say, get first place in the science fair, even though I'm really into science and all that, they don't necessarily always get support from the government, not monetary support, like just physical support, like being there.
But the amount of support you would need if you enabled that outreach from space companies through the internet, so the only thing that you would need on your end is a webcam and a browser, is pretty accessible to everyone.
Yes.
So, I mean, from a creativity standpoint, that's what I was thinking of, right?
Well, yes.
And I'm sure we'd all love to go tour SpaceX facilities. I've heard it's an awesome tour. But I just think from a widespread distribution standpoint, we could enable with some, if we could make it attractive, anyone in their living room to be able to do that kind of participatory thing. And then it would require government intervention, approval, or expenditure. Other than someone needs to be there at a place to interact with you.
And put them on.
Yeah, that's one way you could do things.
Come over here.
I had tried creating a SEDS chapter inside my school, but I don't know if they're not interested with science or space in general, or they don't have the funds. It wasn't explained to me. It was just, yeah, I'll look it over. And they never got back to me on it. I mean, I bugged them, and nothing came of it. I'm standing here as a non-member of SEDS who would eventually like to become a member of SEDS. But stuff like SEDS and clubs like that aren't accessible at my school. Like, no, I mean, there's clubs, but there's nothing geared towards people like me. So, in my school, I tend not to participate in any extracurricular activities because there's not a whole lot out there.
So, I guess from
No, I mean, if there was something where a group of us came down to, say, our auditorium, which is relatively close to the cafeteria, and we all just sat down and met with somebody from, EPO guys or anybody from NASA or just space companies in general.
If you don't see the thing that you want, then
You have to go out there and make it.
You have to go out there and make it. And to use because I'm here and we're at this thing, right? This doesn't exist 6 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it's largely done by one person. I'm not extraordinary.
Yeah.
I'm not. I had a lot of help, but it took some upfront pitching to get people on board. I didn't have to twist Ben and Carrie Ann's hand very hard. And Ben is another good example. Ben saw that there was a need for something, a huge gap that Spacevidcast fills in the space community, and he figured out a way to go and do it. And I think you're going to find in the environment that you have, especially if you're alone, you're going to have to do it, and it won't be easy. Some of it will be really, really hard. I slept for like 3 hours last night. It is worth it.
I think a lot of most of it will be hard.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so rewarding.
Right. And you have to be ready to put your sleeves up and find a mentor, right? So especially at your age, that was something that I'm so glad that this is not the first SpaceUp, because I was engaged with Chris Radcliffe, who put the first one on, and I could learn from the things that he learned. So if this one is as good as that one, it's because of the things that we learned from doing that, right? And having a mentor in that, and I'm sure there's people in this room who would be more than happy to help you with it. I know for sure that I would.
I'm saying, do you follow Aggie Astronaut?
Yeah. Carrie B.
Yeah, Carrie. She's a good friend of mine. She runs the SEDS chapter at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, if you asked her, she'd be willing to help you get one started up there.
I have talked to Rick Hannon, and I've talked to the other, Carrie Hancock, that's her name, from Arizona. And the problem, I gave the administrators at my school the actual packet for chapter expansion, and They just said, I'll read it, and then nothing.
But they don't want it, but you do.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be true for the things that are hard. I think there are a lot of people, and I won't speak for Ben, but I think Ben can probably attest to this in doing Spacevidcast over the years, that Spacevidcast is his vision and his hard work for executing it. And the reason that it happened wasn't because right off the bat he had an idea and he was able to convince someone of doing it. He just persisted over and over and over again. And I promise you, on every Thursday night, he doesn't feel like doing it, right? Most of them he probably does, but he has to push through those hard things and just keep doing it, right? There's a really great story. It's probably not rated G, but no, it's not. There's Stephen King has a book called On Writing, and the first part of it goes through his process about how he became a really famous fiction writer. And he had a 10-penny nail that he put up on the wall. And I'm not kidding around. In high school, he filled the 10-penny nail with rejected work. He filled it, right? Mm-hmm. Rejected work. It was like this thick. And then, when it was full, Ben Bova, who ran Asimov magazine at the time in like 1974, finally said, "This work isn't for us, but keep trying." So he finally filled this 10-penny nail full of rejections. It had to have been 200 of them, right? And it was about his persistence. And I'm not saying that you have to get 200 rejections, but I'm just saying that it may take some effort to rally to get it going.
So, for example, have you actually tried actually recruiting fellow students to have your own essentially space and astronomy social group? That way, you could actually go to the administrators and say, "Hey, it's not just me. We've got all these other kids that want to do it too."
Well, here's the issue. I moved there roughly a year ago, and this is going to be my senior year of high school. And I know some people, and I know teachers, but I haven't spent my whole life with these people. I mean, I don't know exactly what their interests are. I know some people that are in my networking class that love tech. So
I think unfortunately, your frustrations are the same ones we've had at school, I'm sure. But we also have every day in our jobs. I mean, we've had a series of sessions here that you may have sat in on some of them about if we hit the same obstacles in the things we want to do, regardless of whether it's personal, professional, society, whatever. The one thing I would say is, first of all, you have the entire digital aspect of things that I didn't have when I was your age, and I don't think most people had when they were your age. I had an email address when I was your age, and that's about it. But it's a big opportunity for you to find other people, and I know it's not as satisfying as having it exactly where you are. But I'd also say that, I grew up right around here in a major metropolitan area, and we never got an astronomy club going, and I went to a magnet STEM school. We couldn't get it going. And those opportunities pass people by regardless of where they are, because it's not the most popular thing. We know that's a huge obstacle. But I know now there are all sorts of communities I could have joined remotely. There are plenty of things that you can do online. And yesterday we talked about working around the problem while you try to fix the broken parts. So you have to find something that sustains you and makes you happy, at least in the interim, while you try to get the astronomy club going, while you think about these things. Because it shouldn't just be that you struggle and you struggle and you struggle and it's no fun at all. You should find something that you can do. Even if it's not the thing you want, there's got to be something that can be fulfilling for you.
At the very least, I figure there's got to be at least some kind of like astronomy club or science club or something like that in Pennsylvania. And even if you're not necessarily able to build up an immediate group within your school, you can at least find other kids your age in your state that have a lot of the same interests and start building a network that way.
And if it doesn't exist, get in touch with people who you think should have something you can connect to and say, can I Skype into your meetings? Can I participate remotely? Even if they don't have that at the moment, could they turn on a computer and a webcam like we're doing right here and allow you to participate remotely and make you a part of things?
Skype is free.
Yeah, Skype is great for that. We do telecoms by Skype.
Yeah.
To to talk to people all around the world to get what we want.
And you are a member of a number of communities that the web has enabled you, right? You're a member of this one. You've been a very active and important member of this one. I don't think that you're not. You are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know everybody's name in this room, but I know yours, right? So that's important. You're definitely a member of the Spacevidcast community, right? I mean, so you're a member of two communities that may not physically touch them all the time, but you're definitely an active member. We all know who you are when you're chatting on Thursday night. Yeah. Right? So you're not alone. And I think we all do share the same frustrations in a lot of things that we do.
But also, this is, I mean, I'm not going to play the you'll understand with your older card because I hate that one. But when you get older, this is something you might want to work on changing. To say, God, I was frustrated when I was in high school and there wasn't this for me.
Yep.
And then when you get out, you're going to be more enabled to fix things than you were when you're in. High school is like the most frustrating thing ever for making change because you're being told you're an adult, so you're almost an adult, so you're responsible for yourself. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you what to do and block you at every turn. I remember high school; it wasn't really that long ago. So, but once you're out, I mean, I think the world will open up to you more. Technology should only get better. And I'd say the university setting is very different. And unfortunately, we're in a society that the university setting is the first place where you're going to find science far more accessible to you. But that's something that, as outreach people, we're incredibly interested in changing. Because, I mean, we know statistically we lose people in middle school. I mean, high school isn't even the problem. I'd like astronomy clubs and content to be relevant to middle schoolers all around the country because that's when, especially girls say, but everyone says science isn't cool anymore. So you're in a position to learn from this and to say, okay, you know what, this is it. One of my goals in life or, you know, whatever is going to be making this more accessible to people who want it. And also you have to make it more appealing to people who don't even know they want it. Because the other thing I'd say is, you know, your fellow students may or may not really even understand what your vision is. And that's a hard sell when it's something, you know, like I want you to do this thing, but, you know, do they know what it is? And if it's something that you can explain to other people, I think the idea of basically rallying students or having a petition or something might be a very good one to show that there's demand as opposed to a single person's desire. I know my high school, we had a completely unofficial, it was called Nerds by Choice club. I know not the most friendly name to the people who didn't identify as nerds, but they wanted a club where they could do their things. And the school said no, and they found a teacher who was willing to let them have a classroom in the morning unofficially. And that club is still in existence, both at the high school and also all the people that came out of it are still socially active, whatever that would be, 13 years later.
I did something similar in the 5th grade. My 5th grade teacher, she wasn't new to teaching, but she was new to the school. And I would have her, they split it up into 2 periods. So in the morning you would have your reading and English, and in the afternoon you'd have your math and science. So I don't exactly remember what I did, but I impressed her to some degree. And she actually let me teach class for a day. And I got questions, feedback, and I don't know if I've kept those people's interest alive, but that was one thing that I hope helped somebody at some point. From that, I was able to build upon that and make a science club, and it was a pretty official thing. You had a sign-up list. Every 9 weeks, we would go out and launch some model rockets that I would bring in, and we'd just do it during lunch. So 30 minutes, model rockets, lunch, and then we would do other random experiments. I mean, we'd do the one with Alka-Seltzer and water and film cans, watch them pop. We did one with gravity and air resistance and stuff like that.
Well, you now have a whole community of people, not just online, but people that you've now met, that questions about things you want to know about what you could bring to your community, for example. I mean, we all have activities, for example, that you could bring that we use to engage all sorts of audiences. So if you want activities, that's great. I don't know if your school has any distance learning hookups.
Yes,
That's
to
the thing
a degree,
we're trying
yes.
to hopefully get in all schools. That's like a federal program that's trying to get that. We do from Goddard do basically distance learning network sessions where you can have various people talk to you, and that can happen during school hours and after school hours if you can get access to those things. So that's a resource that's out there, and that's again like the Skype thing. You can't always have people in the room,
Mm-hmm.
but you could put yourself, digitally with people
Mm-hmm.
and get the opportunity to talk to people.
Well, I just looked up the Pennsylvania Space Grant Consortium's website,
Yeah.
and they actually have quite a few grade 9 through 12 programs.
They did.
And they work with Penn State and Temple
Yeah.
University mostly. And I'm thinking you might want to give them a call.
And if you want to contact at Penn State, I know a couple people that I can put you in touch with.
And apparently they're also it's already happened this year, but in every April the Space Grant Consortium works with Penn State and hosts a space exploration day on campus there.
I would assume that's main campus. I guess the good thing is I am planning on going to Penn State, Erie, or Barron, or whatever you want to call it. And they do have an observatory, so I had always thought that even if I couldn't get a heads up at my high school or something like that, I'd actually asked about how easy it is to stand up something similar, and it's like, it's really easy. It's really easy. It's not hard at all. So eventually when I get into high school, not high school, I'm already in high
You
school.
want to get out of high school.
I want to get out of high school.
Everybody who's in high school wants to get out of high school.
I'm out of high school. I'm in the wrong high school, actually, it feels like.
I'll just reiterate, you are in the same shoes that so many people are now and have been. And the biggest thing is most people get out and don't look back. And there is value in saying, you know what, I'm not going to just forget about it. I'm going to make change. Because obviously there's a problem that you're expressing that has not been fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And not only are you going to be in the place to fix it, but if you talk to people like us, it gets us rallied up to say, that is something that's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
That's an audience that we're not reaching and that things aren't working for, and one we can relate to. Are you getting good feedback?
Well, a little bit. Rick's online right now, and just say, hi, Rick. Yeah, he's talking about people that get stuck in college and communities there, it seems like. Rick, do you have any more feedback that you can throw this way? Takes about 20 seconds for the chat room to...
Out of curiosity, have you written about any of this, blogged, podcasted, put this out there?
No.
Because that would be something else, I'd say, that you might be able to form a community around. I mean, even if you just put out a blog where you expressed the trials and tribulations, successes and failures of what you're going through, you'd probably find not just sympathy, but possibly ideas and partnerships from people who find what you're doing and say, yeah, I agree, let's change this.
Well, that's one reason why I recommend that you get in touch with the Space Grant Consortium in Pennsylvania, because that's their job, is to facilitate STEM and space education in their state. And if you go to them and say, hey, I really want to do this, I'm really excited about space exploration, and I'm not getting any help, that's their job. That's what they are there for.
And I'd say that's taking it from the top, take it from the bottom, take it from both directions, and say, I'm going to do grassroots, I'm going to contact these people, I'm going to do everything I can.
Oh, Rick wants he's saying, hey, the NASA folks' comments are great, so...
So let's pick our heads up. Sometimes when you get your head down and you're in the thick of it, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Mm-hmm.
What does your life look like in 15 years? Put yourself at 30.
30. Depending on how year 11 stuff goes, and if it stays the way it is, which it probably won't, but I'm thinking right now I'm probably gonna want to go to a private space or private aerospace company of some sort.
Doing what?
Not exactly sure. Definitely something. I want to do something where it's human space flight.
So you want to fly, or
No, I don't want to fly. No. I'd rather have my feet on the ground.
So what if I don't know? Thinking out loud. What if you were the private space industry's liaison to high school space clubs?
Well, even being in sense, they have a director for high schools even, and they get in touch with high school students as well. Like I was.
But sometimes at an innovative company, you can create the position that you want.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to exist. So
No.
if you go to somebody like an Elon Musk, right?
Mhm.
This guy that came up with PayPal, okay, let's just make this, a micropayment thing, right? If you go and invent something, a job at his company, those are the kind of people that will just hire you to do it if they like it, right? So you could, in theory, just invent the job in your head and work at being. The key to that kind of thing is, what could you be the best in the world at? If you took your particular skill sets and your particular passions and you narrowed it to doing a couple things every day in a career, what could you, Zach, be the best in the world at? Because everybody's the best in the world at something. And I'm being really, really serious, right? There might be 5 billion of us on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's really, really good at eating boom pies. Right? Well, you know what I'm saying, right? I mean, you have the opportunity, especially in an entrepreneurial kind of company, to just be the best at something. And some of those guys that's really smarter than everybody that I've ever met, will just pick you up and go, sure, we'll give you a job to do that. So think like that, right? You're at that point in your life where you can really kind of just dreamline the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And people really respect that. I mean, even at the government, I've basically been able to write my own position. I mean, I came in on whatever they wanted me to do, and then I said, look, I see problems here, here, and here. I see things that I could do for you here, here, and here. Let me prove them to you. And I now basically only do things that I want to do because I set myself up that way. And it doesn't always work that way, immediately and perfectly, but you really can build these things if you're sure about yourself and you're sure about those things and you're willing to try them. I mean, it's that fail.
You have to be willing to fail.
Yeah.
It's that fail miserably, fail fast.
Yeah.
But in that, you show people that you've got guts, and you also can probably pull some pretty amazing things out of that. And people have a lot of respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like people to see me as an innovator.
Mm-hmm. Well, Quantum G said, well, imagine yourself at 30. Jesus, way to depress the kid.
Hey, I
I'm
turned
35, so shut up.
I would say I turned 31 in 2 days, so hasn't been so bad.
I could say definitively 30 was great.
I'm here.
Yeah, you can have 14. You can pay me to be
Look at
14
that.
again, but I can 30.
I'm 29 and I'm much happier than I am.
It's about as good as it gets. 29 is pretty sweet.
Josh, rocket science has always been pretty interesting to me, if you want that answer. So a little bit of engineering, a little bit of rocket science. I'd like something that's all congealed, all combined. Maybe not necessarily building, because I don't know.
So would you want to say like run space flight ops for a commercial
Even-
crew kind of provider or something like that?
Even that, yeah, something like that. Maybe not even necessarily run, just be a console operator. I mean, Holly, Absolute Space Girl.
Yeah.
She's what exactly is her position?
I don't
in
remember, but
console?
she runs a console.
I mean, something like that would be amazing.
I'll tell you, when you get to college, Penn State, wherever it is, try to get as many internships and opportunities as you can get.
Well,
and
it's part of the
see-
reason for
and
being
see
here.
Everything, because you may not know. Well, I don't think I knew it at 20-something what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I sometimes still say I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
I don't plan to grow up.
That's part of
That's
the
a
problem.
totally different thing.
But that's one thing where you don't have to make those big decisions now, as long as you know some of the things you want to look for. And both public and private sector hire lots of interns, paid and unpaid, all sorts of different roles. Try something for a couple of months and you'll know a lot more about what's for you and what's not. And even in high school there are opportunities, but unfortunately they're more local.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's part of the reason I'm here, is make connections with Mike, with NASA. I met the Deputy Director of Planetary Sciences, for crying out loud. I shook his hand like 10 times. I met his son.
Well, and that's, even if we're not all impressive.
I'm serious. You guys are awesome.
But I will say, you make connections here, and you have. You've been, the social part of things you've gotten down, which is great, because if you were here and sitting in the corner and not having this session, no one would know who you are. No one would, later you'd be like, I was that guy at that thing. And be like,
Yeah.
But I'm going to remember when you get in touch with me, this is a kid that we'd like to have at Goddard, doing something. And we've got 4 science divisions, engineering, and that's...
And I'm thinking, it's like, the guy that runs education programs in my office, I know would probably love to talk to.
Yeah. Because interns who are go-getters, we just had one that left a couple weeks ago from the summer, and I already said, she graduates in a year, I want her. Just having met her, it's like, I would like to woo her when she graduates, because those moments also impress other people. And to make that impression when you're that young is career making.
Is there an opportunity, or are there opportunities for Zachary to do an internship between his graduation and freshman year?
So technically speaking, that's a hard one. But when you know people, the answer tends to be yes. I did it.
Okay.
But it took knowing someone who knew someone, and I said, look, I did a senior year research project in school, and I'd like to continue this research. Would you let me? And some things you can do remotely. The stuff I was doing between my senior year and college was actually looking through observational data and doing cataloging and doing a lot of stat programming and stuff like that. And I did a good chunk of that from my own house instead of having to be at Goddard every day.
And continue to grow and be attractive to the people who would be willing to make an exception.
Mm-hmm.
Which gave me my first published paper before I went to college that no one looks at because it's niche science.
I'll look
but
it up.
there are a lot of Sarah Mitchells, but good luck. I'm the Sarah E. Mitchell. But that's...
Yeah, Zach, look for places around you. Even if you don't
I
get an
think
internship at Goddard, get an
Glenn is the closest NASA center to where I'm located. Glenn's in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's next to the airport in Cleveland. I'll tell you though, Goddard Education Office is who oversees education-wise your area. So Goddard's, just so you know, 'cause it's actually good to know, Goddard centers each have a segment of the country. So Goddard has Maryland and DC up through Maine on the eastern seaboard. So technically, if you want any opportunities educationally, or you want someone to your school to talk to, even if Glenn is, as the crow flies closer, get in touch with Goddard, because otherwise Glenn will just hand you right off to Goddard. That's
Everybody
a
should
weird
wave at
thing.
the camera. My dad's watching.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, he's watching.
So you feel like you got some direction out of,
No, I'd love to get in contact with anybody and everybody. That's partially why I'm here, is connections. Meet people, talk to people. Meet new people, get contact information for people I may possibly personally meet.
Never hurts.
Nope.
and it's not a one-time deal, right? It's just,
Yeah, no.
It's always about, always.
And I think that hopefully will empower you to do that thing I said, where you get what you want out of it while you work to fix a problem. Because I hope you won't let it go. Like say, well, this school is stupid. They'll never have a space club. I'm gonna do what I want. I hope you can take this and at least try to do something that fixes things in the future.
Well, the main
Or
thing
hope
is
that
I
you-
don't think there is really. I can't speak for other schools in my area exactly, but to my knowledge, there's nothing national or regional that I know of locally, and which is a shame because.
But there's one thing schools like most, and that's money.
Yeah.
But the other thing schools usually like is recognition. NASA had an Explorer Schools program, and they do, but that's more middle school oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And schools fought tooth and nail to be named as NASA Explorer Schools, so that they could write NASA Explorer School on the letterhead, on the side of the school, on everything they could put it in to brag about it. And if you can bring something to your school that they think will make them look good,
Mm-hmm.
that is a selling point.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be money; they'd love to see money, but if it's something that they can stick on a letterhead that they can put out in the local newspaper that they can brag about when they're reporting what their school or school system does,
Mm-hmm.
that's something to look into.
Yeah, like we just did something called the Summer of Innovation that covered a whole bunch of different educational programs. But one of the things that we did was we sponsored a nationwide competition where high school students got to develop algorithms that actually got flown on the Sphere's mini satellites.
Mm-hmm.
On
Oh, the
space
race.
station.
The
And
races.
they did the races, and we had, and when we did the pilot program for that a couple of months ago, we had schools. I think we had a school from Utah. I think the other school was from Terre Haute, Indiana,
Yeah.
and most of those kids until they did something like that, they had no idea what NASA was doing, what they're up to. But after they got to do this, they sure sent me back home and said, we got to see something that we built and designed fly on the space station.
And that was one of the points I made earlier in one of yesterday's sessions actually, where we met with Amy. Can't remember her last name or Kim.
The one who's on
Yeah.
appointment to NASA headquarters.
Yeah, and she was asking for ways people in the public could get interested in NASA and PE, just participatory exploration. And I was like, well, why don't we have people in general possibly help design something, whether it be just, hey, we're going to do something sciencey or exploratory. Help us come up with ideas as to where or what we should do while we're in space. And then give people the chance to not necessarily design the space-hardened parts, like go in and like, oh, this needs... Just give them the chance to say, oh, we want to put a camera on that thing to take pictures that look awesome. And then when it launches, people on the internet or wherever go, hey, I helped build that in a sense. I kind of helped build that thing that's going up and going to where we, as a nation or whatever, want it to go. And it's going to do things that we want it to do. And that would give the public more insight into, well, here's something that we are doing. Here's something that we did together as a collective community.
Well, I can tell you that we will be doing more participatory, like educational competitions for exercises on the space station, mainly on the space station for the coming years. But maybe it can be enough for you to get started for essentially for the next go round that we do on the Spheres Zero Robotics competition, for you to find a teacher that would sponsor you, some other students that would like to do that, and put together a team from your school to enter in the competition. Because I guarantee you, if you make a good showing on that, and you make your school and your school district look good, that's going to turn people's heads. That will change people's minds.
And I can tell you, if you get in touch with me, and I don't know details on this, the James Webb Space Telescope is hosting an engineering design challenge coming up, and I don't know any details beyond basically that.
NASA has
things are class things, some things are club things. I mean, you have to sort of look at all of them and say, what do I fit into? But you've got the people right here in the bigger picture who can help you find those things. And that's the kind of thing, Twitter has actually been pretty interesting watching, because people will just ask me questions sometimes. Like, where can I find this? Do you guys do this? Do you know who does this? And I'm like, you know what, I don't know, but I bet I can find out. And if you put questions like that out there on different forums, to the people that you've met here, you know, I mean, I follow a variety of hashtags, past events too. So,
Also, I'm here today because I got recruited into a summer high school apprenticeship program at JSC. That's what got me started down this road. Unfortunately, that program doesn't exist anymore. But there are other opportunities that are out there. And a lot of us in this room know people that we need to make touch with to help find.
It's like, bring it in, yeah. I mean, I'd love contact with anybody that can help me in any way, actually.
you've got it.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And you also, like I said, you have the ear of a lot of people who share your frustrations and your interests, and who might be willing to help enable change.
And one of the things that I really like about your suggestion for him to put something out on the web is, there have got to be other kids in Pennsylvania and in your area that feel exactly the same way you do. They just haven't found a way to voice it yet.
Yeah.
Well, and if you don't voice it, then maybe never connect.
I mean, I really do think a blog is the easy. I mean, that's going to be the easiest compared to a podcast or a YouTube channel or something. But even just a blog that's the voice of a frustrated high school student, you get some Google hits, and then people start talking.
I do a podcast. I can help you with that. But I agree, definitely right. It's important to develop your writing skills anyway.
Yeah.
So.
You actually know a lot of people who are going to do podcasts, because I'd be happy to podcast about that.
And there's Gene back there. And Ken's from the FAA. And Ben's back there.
So your 15 minutes of fame will be when you're interviewed. Your first 15 minutes of fame will be when you're interviewed by all of us as the high school students going to change this. Single-handedly.
Well, I wouldn't say single-handedly. Oh, well, maybe. Who knows?
Be surprised at how many single-handed people change the world.
Maybe. Who knows?
Go ask Steve Jobs. You can do it twice.
Well, it wasn't completely by himself. He had Steve Wozniak.
Woz did help, right? He built the computers.
That's just that.
Well, Woz wasn't going to sell it, right? I mean, it wasn't going to leave Roz's closet. It really was Steve who was the catalyst. The point being is that it doesn't take an army. It takes one.
Oh, my dad wants to make sure I thank everybody.
Thank you. Because you're a voice that should be heard here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I'm on board, because the minute we saw that, we're like, that's the one I'm going to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I had I was like, should I do this?
This exists for you to have a voice. That was my point of doing this, is to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Next time we do this, there's 20 of them. I'm serious.
You'll have to fight for the.
That would be an awesome problem.
Yeah.
You'd be okay with that problem?
That would be a great problem. It would be a great problem for you to have, because then you'd have 20 peers who are all in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And co-conspirators feel really good.
Yeah.
My co-conspirator is about to move away, but she and I, the minute we met, we started making trouble. And in the good kind of trouble. But it's like, I was like, here's someone who thinks the same way I do and wants the same things. And now I've got someone I can rely on, and we can make this happen. And we made a lot of things happen that I feel really good about. And having someone, especially when you're frustrated with a system, who has the same thoughts and ideas, it's empowering. And then you find more.
He wants me to thank you guys for a chance. For giving me a chance.
You made your own chance.
Yeah.
It was all you.
Well, I don't have much else to say.
That's good, because you're done.
That's good. Yeah, I'm done.